What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Filip Latocha, and today I am recapping my second Silverthorne trip in Colorado in the year 2022. And we're just going to get right into it. The good, the bad, the ugly, what's working, what's not, and how everything is kind of shaping up for the Chicago Triathlon this weekend, in addition to the upcoming races leading to the Chicago Marathon. So before we get into it, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're subscribed and watching the content. Thanks so much. Love you guys a lot. Let's get into it, I guess. So, sip of coffee. Ooh, homemade. And we just got a list of things I'm going to kind of break in. So, some of the recaps here, if you've never watched the channel before, if this is the first time you're watching a Silverthorne review. Basically, this is kind of my style of an elevation training camp, but there's a few caveats. One, of course, is that Silverthorne is based in like central mountainous Colorado, and it on average sits at about 9,000 feet. There's a lot of mountains, a lot of things like that to do. I've trained there since, I guess, 2017, 2018 at the earliest. I think 2017 was definitely when I started up in the mountains there. And basically, I've just been training there every single year for the last how many ever years I've been running. And it's getting to the point where I am seriously considering relocating to Colorado, which we'll get to here in a second. But yeah, that's kind of basically the gist of things. So every time I come up there, the training is kind of spotty, right? Some days you're feeling good and you're acclimating just fine. And other times you go, it just feels like absolute garbage. So the last time I was there, when it was like the beginning of the summer and it was like dry, and obviously you're at 9,000 feet and there's not really a lot of access to, like, I guess, water and stuff, it just does not go well. But this time around, we kind of come in at what I guess is deemed monsoon season. So there was a little bit of moisture in the air, there was more access to water, I'm a little bit more comfortable with the trails, I've put in more miles and distance and more voluminous work at closer to sea level, and as a result the training up there was just a smidgen easier. It was not like a significant bump in difference, but I was able to do more work without having to like pause and stop, rather than what I was doing before when I was like recovering from, you know, taking a bump on my head and having the scar and all that stuff. So first note that I have here is that I'm content. Well, I guess that's the case, right? So anytime you go on a vacation after, you know, you got some stressful things going on in life, I suppose it's normal to come back feeling refreshed. So that's how I'm feeling right now, with like all the things kind of going on the back end of life at this point in time. So that's something I guess worth noting, that I'm content, that, you know, I'm a little bit more social with like my friends, with people that I meet in public, especially people at my gym. So I'm trying to like push for that a little bit more, especially now, because that's just something I guess that I'm discovering, that I'm a little bit more extroverted of a personality in some cases. So being able to train in the mountains and having people, I guess, well, this is kind of a consequence of just me existing, but I guess some people at the gym know that I'm like doing the Chicago Triathlon just because I look like a runner, I guess. So yeah, talking to people about triathlon is quite fun, and like listening to beginners' stories, or like people who are nervous and looking for advice, like that's kind of nice to try to help those people out specifically. Again, I still haven't talked to all my gym wives yet, but they will know one day that I do running and triathlon, if they haven't already guessed already. So cool. Well, we'll get there. Point number 2, I put down that it's monsoon season in Silverthorne, but running is better in June. I guess we kind of briefly mentioned that like running at 9,000 feet when it's dry air is significantly more difficult than if it's a little bit more humid, a little bit cooler, and you're still at the same elevation. So that's one of the major experiences with Silverthorne that I should probably note as to why this time around the trip felt easier than it did during the summer, or like the early summer of 2022. And then the next note I've got is talking about acclimation and my 2 to 3 year plan. So from an acclimation standpoint, basically what your body is trying to do is essentially get more oxygen into your bloodstream and just like through your body through a normal process. However, the caveat is the higher in elevation you go, the less oxygen that's really available to us. So it's not that your body is going to make the quality of your blood necessarily pull more oxygen. I think it has like your blood, I think, is like 50% oxygen, like 50% some other things. Again, not a medical professional, don't quote me on this. I'm just like paraphrasing some articles I read in like really, and I'm just like paraphrasing in low level terms here, but I digress. The point is, your body's response to this is to produce more red blood cells, and what's happening is your kidneys are also producing, I guess, more EPO as a result. And I guess EPO is used in like other contexts for like, I guess, steroids and whatever, but in this case this is a natural bodily response to being in higher elevation where you have less oxygen, which is A, produce and develop more EPO, and 2, produce more red blood cells to carry more oxygen. So that's part of the adaptation process when you're in the mountains, and that can take, I guess, like as little as 12 to 15 hours to basically, for your body to start acclimating, because your body recognizes when like it's experiencing a few signs of, not necessarily hypoxia, but like mild signs of it when you start moving into elevation. So when you live at like 9 to 10,000 feet, that's like a prime spot to be like living if you want to develop, you know, more red blood cells, get a higher EPO, etc., etc. And if you want to train and have a good quality, you need to be at like 5 to 6,000 feet. Maybe 7 is like the absolute peak, I guess. And that makes sense from like the Olympic training camp standpoint of, if you're in Colorado, specifically Colorado Springs, that's sitting at about 7,000 feet. And that's where I believe they have their Olympic training centers. So I think they really mapped that out to be like the prime niche training area for like the United States athletes. And I think that's might be specific to track and field. If it's not, then it would be in Eugene, Oregon that this would be happening. So again, I didn't do too much research on this, but I know there's an Olympic training facility in Colorado Springs for this particular thing. So that's something to note from the acclimation standpoint. And of course, I guess they mentioned that your acclimation is supposed to last for about 2 weeks after you get back, depending on how long you've also stayed in Colorado. And last year when I stayed for a month, I had it during my Chicago Triathlon race day, and I had a bomber of a day. It was like awesome. Like, I don't mean I bombed the day. I mean, it was like I was dunking on everyone that I was trying to compete with against in the running segment of the race. This time around, I guess we came back sooner than I was hoping for, and it's going to be kind of spotty in terms of, I guess, how long the adaptation is going to last, if at all. And we're going to see what happens, because it's going to be about 7 days since I got back that the race day is going to occur. So we're just going to have to see what happens. And like, whatever happens, happens, I guess, in this case. And then I listed a 2 to 3 year plan. So this is kind of a bold thought, but my brain is kind of set on at least having some kind of property in Colorado within the next 2 to 3 years. Now, this is kind of bold. Maybe this would be better as like a 5-year plan. But the idea is I would like to have a place where I can do some acclimation training more frequently, that I own, that I have access to freely. And with like some of the stuff I still have to pay off, whether it's like student debt or, you know, some car payments or things I gotta fix, 2 to 3 years to get a property that may sit over $1 million is still kind of rough. So that's kind of the price of living, you know, out in the mountains right now. And like, sure, I'm anticipating like a crash at some point in terms of the housing market, but it's gonna still take a while. And the point is, A, you need to have money saved up for that sort of thing and be ready at like the flip of a dime to buy property, which I'm not at because of my remainder of my student debt. So that's just something worth noting. And I lost my pen somewhere on the floor there. Let's talk about the Chicago Triathlon and Chicago Marathon progress. So, as we have the chart here, as you probably see, I was supposed to do block 2 to end on 70 and 5 miles here, and what happened was that did not happen. Basically, the week I left for Colorado, I lost a whole day in travel for Friday, and the day I got there, I could not do a half marathon. Therefore, I ended at 56 miles rather than running the half marathon, which would have put me at like 61 or 62 miles, and then on Friday running like 7 to 8 miles, which would have put me at 70 for sure. It did not happen. And then, of course, the entire week at Colorado, it was just very difficult to put in distance work and running twice a day. Plus, I was like biking a little bit more, swimming a little bit more in preparation for the Chicago Triathlon. And then I traveled on was it Friday? No, I traveled on Saturday to get back to basically Chicago land area. And that's where I lost some distance as well. So I've actually deloaded some of my distance from going from 75 miles to 46 miles. So 2 weeks in a row, I'm kind of off track here, but I am kind of in this like semi-taper this week for like 50 to 55 miles leading into the Chicago Triathlon, which is that Sunday anyways. So that's kind of what's going on leading up to the race in this direction. I did run a half marathon on Sunday, which was good, kind of a good test for my legs just to feel them out. As I'm leading into the Crystal Lake 13.1 half marathon. So, still a lot of work to be done, and it's kind of in a weird spot progress-wise, but we're gonna see how that plays out. What else we've got? Nothing much else to report on here from the training camp. You know, I did well on my bike. I conquered a usual route that's like a good acclimation ride up what is called Swan Mountain, so that went well. Swimming was also okay, nothing crazy. Did some outdoor wetsuit stuff. I swam with a dog. I was doing flips in the lake in front of the house, so that was quite fun. And yeah, I guess we're just gonna see what happens. But long story short, Silverthorne was a good mental relaxation for myself, even though I was like working out there and working out while I was there. What else? I mean, it's kind of drilling more of this like idea and like this plan at least to eventually move out to Colorado. And it seems like I'm kind of like destined to do it. It's just a matter of when. And then of course, you know, just the usual progress for the Chicago Triathlon and Chicago Marathon is just still underway. So we'll see how everything goes, but that's kind of been the updates for the Silverthorne I guess entry. So if it was entertaining, great. If it was not, I apologize, but you know, just kind of thinking out loud here with my thoughts after a good vacation and how training at Acclimation or training at altitude is affecting my body at this point of the training block. So thanks for watching this video. I'll see you guys in the next one.